So, thank you for joining me. We are now underneath my car. I'm going to be showing you how to do an oil change. So, the tools that I'm using right now are a 16-inch breaker bar, which is a half-inch drive, and then I have a half-inch to 3/8 reducer with a 17mm socket, and then this is my oil pan. So what you're going to do is you have a fill plug on the top of the motor. You're going to open that and take it off to allow the oil to flow out, and then you're going to loosen. There should be a bolt right here on the bottom of your oil pan, which should come right off the bottom of your motor. So that actually holds all the oil. So what you're going to do is you're just going to take it off. Be careful if you were just driving it. The oil's going to be super hot. Normally I like to leave it for anywhere between 20 and 30 minutes just to let the oil cool down. But so since we are under a car lift right now, I have a catch can right here. So this is basically to catch all the oil because I have about 4 quarts of oil coming out of here. So don't want to make too much of a mess. So should be able to pop it out. And then if you can get it right, you can usually push on it so that once you're unthreaded, it'll start to drip. You just pull away. And then you don't splash too much in other directions. And you don't drop your plug. So when you drop the plug, it gets way more messy than this, as you can see, hopefully. I have a little bit of oil on my fingers, but nothing too bad. The oil's a little bit warm. I left it about an hour ago, but nothing too bad. So normally I like to grab a rag or a paper towel, which I have sitting over here. And I like to wipe it down, the plug. So most of them have a magnetic end right there, and then whatever metal shavings type of, it's called goop for the most part, so it'll actually collect on the magnetic end of your plug. So I like to just wipe it off and then, you know, clean it out, wipe all the oil off your hands, do whatever you need to do to clean up, and then wait for the trickle to stop off of the oil pan. And then I'm going to take the rag and I'm going to wipe it off, clean it nice, and then we are going to make sure that the surface where the head of the bolt or the plug sits nice and clean. So that allows you to make a nice connection between the plug and the oil pan so that you don't get an additional oil leak or a new oil leak. So I'll just let this sit for a second. And then one other thing is when you're working on this kind of stuff and you're using, you know, tools and you're working with a lot of oil, try to put down some type of cardboard underneath you. So right now I've got probably 36 by 48 inch piece of cardboard just to catch any overspill, drips, that kind of thing. So it just helps keep the floor nice and clean. It's really hard to clean up oil sometimes. Water doesn't really do much good, and most of the time you have to go buy a relatively expensive cleaner to get the stains out. So I like to just have an extra little barrier in there. So right now we've got just a nice drip. So going to wipe the surface and then slowly thread it back in. And then before I thread it all the way in, I usually like to give it another wipe down because we get an extra little drip at the end most times. So I'm going to wipe it and thread that in. So on a lot of these, you actually have a, sometimes it's yellow, but for the most part, it can actually be white. It's a mark to basically show you how tight your drain plug should be. So there should be one on the plug and then one on the oil pan. So what you're going to do is you're going to put your socket with your bar on there, and then you're going to go until those two line up. Fairly simple, but just know that if you're not comfortable, you can use a torque wrench, and usually you set it somewhere between 10 and 12 foot-pounds, and then you just go until it either makes a noise with a lot of the newer types, or there's a click type, which pushes, and then it'll make a little click, and then that tells you that you're at your designated torque. So I'm just gonna push, and my lines line up, and that's it. We have just drained the oil and put our plug back in. So part 2, we are going to lower the car and put oil into the top, check it with our dipstick, and then hopefully we will be able to drive out of here.